Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you are walking through a quiet field, or maybe even a busy urban park, and you spot a bird's nest.
Right.
But this isn't your typical tidy and natural structure of just twigs and mud. Sticking out from the side is something completely incongruous.
Something that just doesn't belong.
Exactly.
Hmm.
A piece of reflective foil, a strip of plastic netting, or, in the case of the source material we analyzed for you today, a gleaming metal teaspoon.
It's a completely shocking and counterintuitive image, isn't it? I mean, birds spend so much energy making sure their nests are concealed and safe.
Mhm.
Yet so many species seem to deliberately choose these highly conspicuous novel objects and display them right where everyone can see them.
It feels like a massive evolutionary blunder. Why would a bird make its most vulnerable asset, its eggs, easier to spot? And that question is really the foundation of our deep dive today.
A Neophobia hypothesis.
The Neophobia Hypothesis. It's this fascinating, very specific idea that birds are deliberately decorating their nests with objects that are new, evolutionarily speaking.
Things like shiny plastic or metal.
Right, to trigger an adaptive fear response or neophobia in their most dangerous egg predators. We're talking specifically about corvids like magpies and ravens.
And our mission today is to give you the shortcut into a remarkable field study that put this very theory to a really robust test.
It's a great one.
Yeah. The researchers used artificial nests, actual wild corvids, shiny cutlery, and large white feathers to see if these decorations truly provide a critical, time-saving survival advantage for the eggs.
And the central finding here is just stunning. The decoration worked profoundly.
It really did.
In the trials with the established territorial Eurasian magpies, these birds waited significantly longer to attack the decorated nests. We are talking about a median hesitation time of 16.5 hours.
Wow, 16.5 hours, almost a full day.
It shows such a strong adaptive fear response to these new items, and that time, that's everything when you're sitting on eggs.
It's the difference between life and death.
So let's start by defining this paradox. We know birds frequently incorporate materials that aren't, traditional building blocks. We see human-made materials constantly.
Oh, all the time. Plastic wrapping, bits of netting, colorful wires. I've even seen them use parts of those anti-bird spikes they put on buildings.
Ripped right off, yeah. And to understand the strategy, you first have to understand the cost. We need to define decoration here.
Right. And in this context, decoration is any material that doesn't serve the essential physical functions. So not insulation, not structural support.
It's just extra.
It's extra material, often highly visible, added when the nest is pretty much already complete.
Okay, so before this neophobia hypothesis really gained traction, what were the accepted explanations for a behavior that just seems so risky?
Well, the previous theories really fell into three main camps. First, just simple availability.
Okay.
Maybe the material was just easy to find, especially in a city. Second, they might be signaling quality, this concept of the extended phenotype.
Extended phenotype is a great term. For our listener, can you unpack what that means in sort of bird language?
Certainly. An extended phenotype just means that an animal's outward structure or artifact like a bird's nest reflects the quality of the builder, even though it's external to the body. So using a rare or hard-to-get item, maybe a specific shiny object, signals to mates or rivals, hey, I am so experienced and resourceful that I can risk getting this conspicuous thing, and I'm still successful.
So it's a flashy, boastful statement.
It's a total sex, yeah.
And the third theory was ownership.
Precisely. The decoration could be a territorial marker, a sign of ownership to other birds of the same species, class specifics, basically telling them to keep away.
But no matter the motivation, the drawback is inherently huge. You use a shiny piece of plastic, you increase your nest's visibility to all predators, plus the materials themselves can injure chicks, cause entanglement, or even reduce the nest's insulation. It really is a costly gamble.
Which is exactly why the Neophobia hypothesis is so compelling. It reframes that cost as a strategic defensive feature.
Instead of trying to hide the nest better.
Exactly. The bird is using an evolutionarily novel object like a metal spoon to trigger a specific fear response in a specific type of predator.
And why target corvids specifically? Why them?
Because corvids, magpies, crows, ravens, they are extremely intelligent, they're flexible, and they rely heavily on learning and observation. But they're also known to be highly neophobic.
Meaning they have an intense kind of innate fear of new things?
An intense aversion, yeah. They're cautious, they're wary, and They will often spend a long time just watching a new object before they even think about interacting with it. Their own intelligence actually makes them susceptible to this low-tech psychological warfare.
I love that. Psychological warfare being waged with a teaspoon.
It's perfect.
But the study didn't just test novel objects. They also tested a related, slightly more natural idea, the fear of feathers hypothesis.
That's right. This hypothesis suggests that adding large reflective feathers, like the white hen feathers they used, mimics a sign of recent death or struggle.
So a predator sees that and thinks, what?
The theory is that a prospecting predator would see those feathers and immediately avoid the area. They'd fear that a larger, dominant predator might still be nearby, or that the location itself is just too high risk.
Okay, let's get into the setup, because the specific location choices here are so key to understanding the results.
Absolutely. So the researchers focused on two main corvid nest predators, Eurasian magpies and common ravens. They built these artificial ground nests.
Which, as we said, are like the nests of waders or grouse, easy targets.
Easy targets, which is what you want. And they place them in trios, all within a meter of each other. That part is important.
Because it forces a simultaneous decision, the predator sees three options right in front of it, all with quail eggs.
Exactly. And the three treatments were simple. 1, a control nest with nothing extra.
Plain vanilla.
2, a nest decorated with a shiny metal teaspoon. A very specific 13 centimeters, 16-gram object. And 3, a nest decorated with 10 to 15 large white hen feathers.
Now, the locations, this is where it gets really clever. The magpie trials, 78 of them, were in established farmland gardens.
So these were older, highly territorial, experienced adult magpies.
Contrast that with the raven trials, 60 of them, which took place at a local landfill.
Yeah, and the ravens there were often younger, likely non-breeding yearlings or 2-year-olds. And critically, these birds were constantly foraging among all kinds of human-made material. They saw plastic and metal every single day.
That setup is just analytically brilliant because it gives you this natural comparison for the role of habituation.
It does.
You can see how much the effectiveness of a decoration is reduced if the predator is already used to seeing that stuff.
It's the perfect test for it.
Yeah.
And the one crucial metric they measured was just the time. The time that passed until the first egg was removed, all captured by wildlife cameras. That's your direct measure of hesitation or fear.
Okay, let's jump straight to the verdict then. We mentioned that incredible 16.5-hour delay for the magpies. That's a huge win for the nesting bird.
It's a phenomenal difference. Overall, the territorial magpies took that median of 16.5 hours to take the first egg. The ravens at the landfill, only a median of 2.8 hours.
Wow, a 13.7-hour difference in delay. That could absolutely be the difference between failure and reproductive success for the real parent.
It could be everything. And what's fascinating is the behavior they saw in those territorial magpies. The researchers noted footage of the magpies just watching the nest from a distance for hours.
We were completely spooked.
They went into full lockdown mode, yeah.
Yeah.
The fear was palpable. But even with that huge time difference, the control nest was still the preferred target for both.
The plain one was always the first choice.
In about 60% of all trials, for both magpies and ravens, the first egg was taken from the plain, undecorated control nest. So if you do nothing, you're the first choice for a predator.
Let's drill down into the specific decorations. The shiny teaspoon, the pure test of neophobia. How effective was it?
It strongly supported the hypothesis. Both types of corvids showed a really significant delay in attacking that nest compared to the control. For the territorial magpies, only 16% chose the teaspoon nest first.
So very few.
Very few. And they were noted to specifically avoid even touching the spoon. They would just maneuver around it to get the eggs. That's pure neophobia in action.
But the raven's response to the spoon, that's where that habituation factor really shines through, isn't it?
Absolutely. The raven's aversion was much weaker. 34% of them chose the teaspoon nest first.
Which is more than double the magpies.
Right. It's a clear indicator that their daily life at the landfill, foraging among discarded cutlery, had habituated them. The spoon was no longer novel to them, so its defensive value just plummeted.
So neophobia is completely context-dependent. If the predator is familiar with your defensive tool, the tool is basically useless. What about the feathers? Did they work?
The fear of feathers hypothesis was also strongly supported. And interestingly, they were hyper-effective against the ravens.
Really? Against the raven?
Both magpies and ravens showed significant reluctance to attack the nests with those large white hen feathers.
I have to ask, because you'd think a smart scavenger like a raven would be attracted to feathers. Feathers mean food, right? The aftermath of a kill.
That's a great question, and it speaks to the nuance of the hypothesis. While feathers generally do indicate remains, the specific use of large, white, reflective feathers seems to be the key.
So it's the type of feather.
It's the type. That white plumage against dark nesting material might visually mimic the stark remains of a recent struggle, making the ravens wary that the area is high risk, rather than a place for an easy meal.
So they see it as a warning, not an invitation.
Exactly.
Right.
In fact, the ravens showed the strongest aversion to the feathers overall. They chose that nest first in only 5% of trials.
Wow. Okay, so we've confirmed that the decoration buys critical time, especially against older, wary corvids. Let's circle back to the trade-offs now, because habituation is clearly the most influential factor.
It's the biggest lesson here. That stark difference between the territorial magpies and the landfill ravens confirms that any strategy rooted in neophobia fails completely if the target is habituated. If those magpies started living in the landfill, they too would quickly learn the spoons are safe.
We also have to acknowledge the age factor. The ravens at the landfill were likely younger, non-breeding birds.
And that matters hugely. Younger, lower-ranked birds are generally less neophobic than older territorial adults. They might be hungrier, forced to take risks an older established bird would never consider.
So environment, age, social rank, it all combines to determine if the defense even works.
Exactly.
And we keep mentioning the cost, increased detectability. The source material warns this is the major trade-off. We see it in other species, right? Like the clay-colored thrush.
That's right. In that species, using exposed human-made material actually reduced nest survival in an urban setting.
And crucially, that reduced survival wasn't because of corvids.
No, it was often due to conspecifics, other thrushes, or other types of predators. The benefit of your decoration depends entirely on your target audience. You might scare off a magpie only to attract a raccoon.
And that leads us directly to the absolute climax of this data, the mammal twist. Because this anti-corvid strategy is brilliantly successful, but what happens when you introduce a non-avian predator?
This is where the whole thing just flips on its head. In separate trials at the landfill with non-avian predators, mostly red foxes and pine martens, the results completely reversed.
Reversed how?
The mammals removed the first egg from a decorated nest, the teaspoon or the feathers, more often than from the control nest.
Wait, they didn't just fail to be deterred, they actively preferred the decorated nests.
Yes. That's a devastating unintended consequence for the bird.
Why, though?
It's a fundamentally behavioral difference. Mammals are generally far less neophobic than birds, especially when it comes to things associated with humans or food. For a fox at a landfill, feathers are a known sign of a meal.
And the shiny spoon.
The increased visibility from the shiny spoon or the white feathers, combined with their low inherent fear, just made those decorated nests more attractive targets.
So the bird is playing chess against the magpie, but the fox is playing a completely different game.
A different game entirely.
So what is the unified, synthesizing takeaway we want our listener to walk away with?
The main takeaway is that nest decoration is far from random junk collection. It's a genuine, adaptive, anti-predator strategy. It capitalizes on the specific fear-response neophobia of highly intelligent corvids.
And that results in those significant life-saving delays in predation.
Yes, but with a massive caveat.
Right. It truly is all about buying time against the corvids, but the effectiveness depends entirely on three key factors. The type of predator that finds the nest, avian versus mammalian,
The predator's age or social status.
and just how habituated that predator is to human-made debris in its environment. A shiny spoon works great against an old, cautious magpie, but for a hungry fox at the dump, that spoon is essentially an arrow pointing to lunch.
And if we connect this to the biggest picture, the source material notes that while nest material choice often has a strong genetic basis, for example, there are clear differences in feather use between blue tits and great tits. The recent rapid increase in the use of these persistent human-made materials might not be purely genetic. It might be heavily influenced by social learning, cultural transmission.
That raises a truly provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. If birds are socially learning to use materials like plastic and metal materials that persist for centuries, and these materials offer a defensive benefit, could our own pollution be inadvertently driving the cultural evolution of new, beneficial anti-predator strategies across different bird populations? That's a fascinating ecological ripple effect worth thinking about.